this. Okay. This is actually called a Clink sustainability module or something like that. Clink is a program that where you get an account in a little kiosk in the store, and you purchase these program bags, and you get your own unique barcode. You can put as many. You don't have to stand in front of a reverse vending machine to put them all in. You can put them all in a big bag, put your barcode on the side, and stick it in this hatch. So what happens then? The company comes by, empties out all the bags, takes them to a high-speed counting and sorting place where they verify that they're really redeemable containers, and they attribute all of the containers to you, and you get all of the refunds in your account. And the kiosk inside the store, you go in, you just punch in your password and whatever, and you can access everything that's in your account and get a refund that way. These are really cool because they don't have to be attached to any energy from the store. They can be in a parking lot. The stores like them a lot because they're not inside the store. So they have wind and solar, and they can be sustainable anywhere without having to plug anything in. The reason
Martha?
why, yeah, yes?
I'm sorry, this is Dave. I'm sorry to bother you, but the previous slide, I think, showing some of the bottles. Are these plastic as well as glass bottles?
Yes, plastic, glass, and aluminum. And
Okay,
actually, like your Dole pineapple juice cans, they would also be part of this.
thank you.
So you can put them all in the same bag. It's very convenient. The reason why these programs are so effective against litter is that you're assigning a value to an empty container. And that makes it people are willing to go and pick them up even if they didn't put them down there, and just for the money. And a lot other people are less likely to litter to begin with. They're less likely to throw them in the trash. They'll put them in, they'll hang on to them and take them back to the stores. So, and you think about it this way, you're buying the beverage, but borrowing the container, and that deposit is an encouragement and incentive for you to give the container back. So when these containers are collected, they've not been commingled with curbside recycling, with shampoo bottles and chemicals you're using for your cleaning product. They are food grade, and they can be made directly back into food grade beverage containers. You've probably heard before, like in 30 days or something, or maybe it's 60 days, an aluminum can be made into a new aluminum can. It's really quite remarkable. So it saves a lot of energy this way, and the materials are very high quality, and we won't be wasting these materials. 3/4 of them are going into the landfill or incinerator right now, or on the ground, and we can end up diverting most of those into recycling. Now, what happens in restaurants, bars, hotels, and large venues? So that's where you kind of eat on site and drink on site, and you're not going to take these beverage containers home. So those restaurants, bars, hotels, and large venues also pay a deposit when they purchase them from the distributor, and they get the deposit back when they give the empties back to the distributor. Okay, so they hold on to the empties, and when the distributor comes with new full beverage containers, they take back the ones that are empty. So then they get their 10-cent deposits or 15-cent deposits back. And both retailers and the restaurants get a small per container handling fee for holding on to them and sending them back. So let me explain how this happens. The program's implemented and financed by beverage producers. You probably remember the old days when there were those glass bottles that were refillable. When you picked one up and you got some money back for it. It's the same idea. Then they wanted those bottles back because they were going to be refilled. We're trying to get them back to taking responsibility for their containers. It's part of a nonprofit beverage container stewardship organization. Every manufacturer that sells these beverages in Maryland in the eligible containers are going to have to become part of a stewardship organization. The stewardship organization. There's no requirement for local governments to implement or enforce anything. That's all the responsibility of the beverage producers. So they are going to end up paying for the collection and recycling of at least 90% of the beverage containers. And that really saves a lot of money for local government. We have a target here of a 90% redemption rate, and experience to date is that with a 10-cent deposit, you can get 90% back. But the program gets 5 years to get up to 90%. Now, the beverage producers are not totally in charge. The Maryland Department of the Environment has a lot of oversight. They set the convenience standards for like how many redemption sites, the proximity of redemption sites to where people are. It has to be convenient. They set the handling fees, which the retailers and the on premises, the hotels and restaurants, they set the handling fees as a function of what it actually costs to store those things and to collect them. The producers pay registration fees to the Maryland Department of Environment to pay for the staff time and so forth and the oversight. Maryland Department of the Environment approves the stewardship organization for usually a 5-year period. And each 5-year stewardship plan they have to approve, and they have to approve the annual reports. So there really is a lot of oversight. One of the great things that we've got in this bill, we've learned from the experience of the other 10 bottle bill states. You don't want to have to keep going back to the General Assembly every time you want to increase the deposit or increase the types of containers in the program. So in this bill, they have, if the producers are not able to get 90% redemption over a period of time, maybe because over time 10 cents won't be worth as much as it is now, they can up the deposit. There's language in there explains these circumstances. And this year we added, I didn't add it to the slide, but I meant to add it. They also have the ability, as technology changes and the materials used for beverage containers change, they can increase the coverage of, they can add more different types of containers to the program without going back to the General Assembly. It could take decades in some of these states, and they still haven't increased their deposit to 10 cents because of the General Assembly and the lobby of the beverage containers. So once this gets passed, we're going to be on a good trajectory. Like I said, it's self-financed. So basically it's all paid for by the registration fees and the producer fees. The beverage companies, the sale of the raw materials they collect for recycling, and unredeemed. Okay, so if 90% of the people return containers and get their deposits back, but 10% don't, then there's a bundle there of deposits that were not claimed, and those are called unredeemed deposits. Like someone just puts it in their curbside bin instead. They don't get their 10 cents back, but those accumulate, and those unredeemed deposits are also important, and they are used to promote the program. There's penalties. Let me just mention that this grant fund, there is a grant fund that MDD would manage to develop refill and reuse programs. And that is funded from unredeemed deposits. And there are all different kinds of entities can apply for them. This year we added an additional use of that funds. They can actually commission a study to evaluate what it would take, what kinds of investments and policies it would take to get Maryland to have 10% of beverage containers sold being reusable by 10 years down the line. So it really is forward-looking, trying to get to reusables and not just single-use containers. And it would go into effect January 1st, 2028. That gives MDE and the producers 2.5 years to get everything in order with the regulations and everything. Oh, Barbara. Okay. Barbara Solner-Webb is in the waiting room. I just admitted her. Whoops, wrong direction. So here's the impact. These are the 10 states that already have deposit programs. And you can see that the higher the deposit from left to right, rolling the higher deposits, the higher the return rate is. In fact, this was during COVID. It was a little higher than this before COVID. It was these were all over 90%. And here's Maryland with about a quarter of them. So even the worst performing system has twice the recycling rate, recovery rate is Maryland. We can do a lot better and we'll have a lot less litter. This is primarily a litter bill, but it does increase recycling. So here, just a summary of the other impacts. 3.6 billion additional containers will be removed every year from the environment, and 2.3 billion of them are plastic bottles. So our real focus here, our objective is to reduce litter and reduce plastic pollution going in the Chesapeake Bay and our waterways. It's going to produce very high quality materials for recycled content. You know, when we recycle stuff, we're not using energy to extract new materials for virgin materials for these beverage containers. So it really reduces greenhouse gas emissions. There's going to be job creation for recycling. Those reverse vending machines, bag drops, high-speed counting and sorting machines, these all are going to need maintenance and also workers, and then also jobs associated with reuse systems when that gets going. And there's going to be cost savings for local governments. Local governments like your municipalities, they're not going to have to pay for the recycling and disposal of beverage containers and a lot of litter cleanups, because a lot of this will be already paid for by and organized by the beverage companies. And I have actually done some calculations here on the savings just in tipping fees for a few of the municipalities in Prince George's County. So I wanted to share that with you. You know about the waste characterization study from 2022 at the Brown Station Road landfill. Well, there was also a study of the capture rates at the MRF. And the capture rate study got into great detail, more detail than actually the waste characterization study about specific commodities. So it separated out PET beverage containers from other PET and, like that, all the different. So I was actually able to see what percentage of the materials at the MRF and what percentage of the materials at the landfill, put to the landfill, are beverage containers that would be included in the program. And it turns out that 27.1% of the stuff at the MRF is beverage containers that would be in the program, and 6.4% of what's in the landfill. So I took the tonnages. This is for these municipalities. I took their tonnages going to the landfill and the tonnages going to the MRF, multiplied them by those percentages, add them together. And so Bowie has 2,496 tons of beverage containers disposed or recycled. It was actually fiscal year 24 for them. If the return rate for deposit containers reaches 90%, and given the current tipping fees, they're going to save $109,358. You can see it goes down a little bit with the 70%, but that's actually quite a lot of savings for Bowie. And some of these places are smaller, but you can do the math here. Now, what I was also going to try to do is look at the tonnage of beverage containers diverted from the landfill in the MRF at the county level. And thank you very much, Kevin, for sending me some numbers. So the next slide is very preliminary, because one of the things I think that those coefficients, Kevin, were not just for residential. I think they were municipal solid waste, but also from commercial sources. But I need to check that. So consider this a lower estimate. So according what Kevin said was that residential curbside recycling generates 55,000 tons basically a year at the MRF, and the trash is 934,000 tons. So this is the total tonnage. Here I'm multiplying through by the percent that would be beverage containers, and you get this. 6.4% of that is 12,400. So this comes to be the total tonnage, estimated tonnage of beverage containers every year going to the landfill or the MRF. So depending on the recovery rate for the beverage containers, you can see how many tons would be diverted. But this may be an underestimate. I'm just going to go back to the studies to make sure I got this right. This might be for more tonnage than the residential. It may be for more than that. And this here shows how I came up with 27.1%. Anyway, so okay, I usually give this talk to people and ask them to take action. in your case, the most important action is to get the county to endorse the bottle bill. Um, we've been working in a coalition with the Sierra Club's been working this big coalition of organizations, and for a year, started in, let me stop share. And we've been working especially hard to get municipalities to come on board and counties, because I think initially the Maryland Municipal League was against the bill, and they didn't realize that they didn't have to implement anything. And now, as they've learned that they're going to save a lot of money and lose a lot of litter, a lot of them are on board. So we've been doing those calculations for the cities and towns that have their own trucks in particular, because it's pretty easy to calculate the tipping fee savings. There's more savings, transportation savings too, and staff savings. But we've been working on that for a while. We are really lucky. If you want to know recent developments, we've been having a lot of those demonstrations with the members of the coalition on what share of litter is beverage containers, because we're really pushing it on the litter. The litter is removal is the objective here. And Senate President Bill Ferguson is now supporting the bill. He said it has probably the best chance of passing this year it's ever had. That doesn't mean it will pass. It's going to take a lot of work. We've had rallies. We have a DC bottle bill is going to be introduced by Councilwoman Nadeau. So, one of the critiques they often have of these bills is, oh, but we have such porous borders. People come from DC and Pennsylvania will come and try to, redeem containers that they never paid a deposit on. Let me just say that problem has never taken down a bottle bill. There are ways of dealing with that. So I'm trying to remember. I think that's pretty much all I had to say. I mean, there are a few improvements in this year bill, but mainly been working on improving the atmosphere for getting it passed. And let me just say that the beverage companies, no matter what we do, will always be against it. We're not fooling ourselves, because they're being regulated and they have to pay for the whole thing. They don't want to do that. The waste haulers don't want it because they make money on waste. And the retailers generally don't really like to have to take back the beverage containers if they can help it. But if the municipalities and the counties and the public, the environmentalists, nobody really wants to see this litter. If we all get together and support this bill and show the governor and the General Assembly that we really want it, we want to reduce plastic pollution and litter, it can pass. But it really does depend on what, I think the tricky part is the municipalities and the counties. And I know that we're having a changing of the guard here in Prince George's County. And guess what? Baltimore County too. Johnny Yashevsky is going to be a congressman. And that was the county executive who wrote in last year in favor of the bill. So I don't know who's replacing him. The mayor of Baltimore every year they're trying to wean themselves off an incinerator. They're trying to divert stuff. Working hard to try to get Montgomery County on board and Prince George's. I think we'll see what happens, but anything you can do to help. And the fact sheet that we have has that QR code that you can scan and actually do the action alert as individuals. I wanted to thank you all for endorsing the bottle bill last year in your own letter. And that was very helpful. Thank you. But I'm hoping that we can it might be an opportunity to get Director Kroons on board this time, because there's kind of a changing of the leadership, and the new leader hasn't come in, and so I'm looking forward to talking with her sometime soon.
Okay, so do folks have questions for Martha?
I have
Process
two.
question.
Questions?
I have two.
Okay, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, Martha, the bag drop and the reverse vending machines. Who's paying for those? And for instance, in Prince George's County, how many of those would you expect to be placed out in the public, I guess, near shopping centers or in shopping centers. How would that work and how many and the cost?
I don't know how many because basically MDE is going to have to do set up the convenience standard and in urban and rural and suburban areas. All the retailers with more than 3,000 square feet of sales area are supposed to take them back, but they also have the option of a bunch of small ones coming together to sponsor one of these bag drops or a bank of reverse vending machines. Now, they pay for those machines, but they get a handling fee per container that is pegged to the actual cost of collecting stuff. So they are being reimbursed for that. Sorry. What was your second? By the way, Dave, I was just talking to Clink, the people that make those bag drops this morning to see how many they would need. And they are going to do those calculations because apparently Governor Moore really cares about the economic impact and economic development, what kind of investments it'll bring into the state. And I'm trying to get information from them on how many jobs would be created and what kinds of investments we're talking about. But it's going to be a mix of different, it's not going to be all reverse vending machines or all bag drops. It'll be a mix. And there'll be some standalone. With respect to the counties, if the counties find that as a result of this bill, they lose money, which is very, very unlikely, there is a subsidy for them from the program for the first 2 years. And they also are empowered to have their own redemption centers themselves if they want to get the handling fees.
So Martha,
Thank you.
so when the county collects, hold on a second, Bill. When the county collects the recycling and they take the beverage containers out, how does it work then? From
Well,
that,
they'll have fewer beverage containers in the curbside bin.
right, but how do they get
they-
redemption for them?
No, the recyclers are not going to be able to redeem them. They're going to be all contaminated and crushed sometimes. And no,
Okay.
they're going to be sorted through the MRF. It doesn't put the MRF out of business, by the way. I mean, they have a lot of other things, as you know, that they do. All the states that have bottle bills also have curbside recycling and MRFs. So it's just they'll just have a different proportion than they used to, and they'll have fewer costs for processing. And the real bonus for them is there won't be very much glass in there. And the glass, is very heavy and it's wear and tear on the equipment, and the glass will not be landfill cover. It'll actually be made into new bottles. So it will be much better for the environment that way than continually making new glass. But I
Okay,
am going to do
Bill,
those calculations because the 3 counties that are usually on the fence about this are Prince George's, Montgomery, and Baltimore counties because they have a MRF and they think like the private MRF waste management. I'm going to lose revenue here because I'll have less aluminum and less PET, and they will. But if this belongs to the county and the taxpayers are also paying for the burying 3/4 of all the beverage containers out there, we're spending much more money on that than the revenue at the MRF. It really more than offsets that. So we have a fact sheet from Reloop and the Container Recycling Institute that reviews 33 studies of the impact of bottle bills on local government. And virtually all of them, they save money. It's just very rare that they don't. So it's good for the taxpayers.
do you have any sense of what the volume reduction is for a landfill, for example? Because I guess there is kind of almost an average size sort of.
I just know for weight. That's all that I wish I did.
Yeah,
No volume.
I'm just curious because because we're building a new landfill here. So if it reduces some percentage of the landfill space, that would be volume. That's a real benefit for the county.
Yeah.
So,
It's
Bill,
very disturbing that the glass is all being used as landfill cover. None of it is being recycled according to the MES. because I got all the data on the revenue at the MRF and the total tonnage, sold for each commodity and the price of the commodity in 2023, the revenue from all the recycling bales that were sold was $3.7 million. Anyway, and I know the percentages for each of so I'm going to try to figure out that balance of, I'm going to look at all the numbers and see if I can do that calculation to show that Prince George's County will not lose out on this. There'll be less at the MRF, but it'll still be thriving and we won't have as much going to the landfill.
Good.
And I hope the glass will be recycled and not made into, cover.
Bill? Been patient? You're muted.
I think Barbara was before me, actually.
Oh, Barbara, I'm sorry. And Chuck has his hand up too. So Barbara, go ahead.
Yeah.
And
Hi,
Chuck.
thank you. And sorry for being late. I got totally screwed up. I thought this was just like completely convincing. Wonderful presentation, Martha. Thank you so much. I'm only sorry that Andrea Crooms wasn't here to hear it, to sway her to get the DOE on board. But short of that, would it help to get a letter this year from the SWAC supporting this year's bill? Or does last year's letter still count?
It would help. It would also really help to get the county council on board. They have a General Assembly committee that considers, whether they want to endorse different bills. And last year, Walla Blagay, actually, she testified in person. She waited 4.5 hours to talk for 2 minutes up in Annapolis. It was incredible. Anyway, she wanted to make sure that they got their eyes on the bottle bill. And so we went to that meeting of the General Assembly Committee, and their own hired person, Carrington, who's supposed to review the bill, absolutely screwed up the description of the bill. And Oriata was saying, well, how much is it going to cost the county? It cost $1 million to run out the bag bill, and all the stuff. And he was saying, oh yeah, I'll find out how much that'll cost. I mean, he was completely wrong. And it was just mind-boggling. And I had a discussion with him, gentle discussion, polite discussion, offering to brief him more and give him the fact sheet. But he was like, no. Yeah. So it would really help if you take pictures. This is what I said in the take action section. Take pictures of that litter and send it to your council person and say, I'm fed up with this. This is not sustainable. I refuse to go on more cleanups. We can't do this the rest of our lives, right? It's just not efficient. And we got all this plastic pollution. So that would be very helpful. Also, if you're in a municipality, I've reached out to a lot of municipalities and given the spiel to the green teams. If you have a green team in your midst, and we're going to talk tomorrow, Barbara, to Michelle Blair in Laurel. She actually is the vice chair of the Maryland Recycling Network, as well as the sustainability. So it'll be interesting to see which hat she's wearing, if it's the Laurel hat or the MRN hat tomorrow.
I bet the Laurel hat.
MRN includes like the waste haulers in it. Yeah. So, So, I mean, we've gone all the municipalities in Frederick County. I've talked to the Maryland Black mayors. Like 14 of them were here in Prince George's County. I spoke with the mayor of Easton is on board. A lot of them are on board now. The thing is, we don't have the bill number yet. And we don't know when the hearing's going to be. So we can't tell people to write right away. But I guess now Bill has this question.
Okay. No, Chuck, I think.
Oh, Chuck, sorry, Chuck.
Chuck,
You're muted.
you're muted.
Am I okay now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Got a question about how you screen out bottles and cans on which there was no deposit paid when they're turned back in.
And that's a very valid concern. There are state-specific barcodes that you can use. It's illegal to require them, but in this bill, there are multiple incentives in a stewardship organization amongst the producers they pay less if they voluntarily put a Maryland barcode on it. There's also ways, it's not like just somebody coming in across the border with 10 cans is going to break the system. But there have been instances, and you may have seen this a few years ago. There was an example of some people in Arizona that had whole truckloads of beverage containers and tried to redeem them in Los Angeles, right? They were caught. So in this bill, we have a requirement to set up a system for those large, like a stadium, right? You want to make sure that stadium is from Landover, not from, DC or Virginia, to have a system to track these large entities that might be sending in beverage to validate where they are coming from and that they are actually from Maryland. So we've looked across there, and I think we're in good shape. But just so you know, I mean, when I was putting those 10 cans in, I had an 11th can that was a root beer can, and it rejected it, even though it said New York, Maine, and everything on the top. So they do have ways of detecting it. It's possible to cheat, but it's not going to be a big factor.
Okay, Bill, finally.
Okay, for the restaurants, you say that they're not going to be able to pass along the deposit fee to customers when they're purchasing their beverages, even though they never handle the container itself. Is that something that there's any provisions for that, other than the restaurant themselves not wanting to do it?
So at restaurants, if you want a beer in a glass, lots of them are on tap, right? But suppose you want a beer, a glass in a glass bottle. Okay, you drink it and you leave it on the table, right? You don't take that away. So they just collect the empties, and when the stewardship program truck comes by, they take that away and they give their restaurant its deposits back and a handling fee.
Right, but the restaurant isn't putting it onto the bill that the customer receives.
No, they don't. They
Okay.
don't pass that on. And just so we're clear, deposits are not taxable. Someone else asked that question. If you're at the grocery store and you buy like, a 10-pack of drinks and you pay 10 pack is $1, right? Because it's 10 cents a can. You won't pay tax on that. It's a deposit.
Okay.
So, and you'll get it back when you return the containers.
The other question I had is there, with more now coming out in favor of the selling of beer and wine in supermarkets, is there any perceived impact that may have one way or another for the bill's passage?
I was wondering about that. Well, who's opposed to that
That's why I asked
is
the
the
question.
liquor stores. The liquor stores are opposed to that policy. They're also opposed to bottle bill, but a lot of the mom and pop ones are pretty small, and we actually exempt them from having to take things back. The only thing that the smaller retailers that sell beverages have to take back is containers that they sell that will not go into a reverse vending machine, like the little miniatures, Bill, that we captured there at that trash sort, the little tiny whiskey bottles.
Picked up
They'll
5
have
of
to-
them today.
It's hard to argue. It's hard to argue you don't have space to store those to send back, right? Because you could put 100 of them in a box. So, and that's actually an incentive for them to not sell them. So
I picked up 5 today, so those are popular items.
I don't think it will have any impact on the bottle bill at a regular grocery store if they're also selling wine and beer. I mean, that's true all over the country. So
Well,
it's
Are grocery stores over 3,000 square feet usually?
yes,
Most of-
they are. Yeah.
Okay.
Convenience stores are 3,000. Some of them are getting like to 4,000 or 5,000 now. But
Okay.
Okay, any
Now,
more,
I
any
wanted to
further
show you,
questions?
did you see this t-shirt I'm wearing?
Cool.
Oh, that's great.
I don't know if it's in reverse. Whoops. And on the back, it says, cash for trash, lose the litter.
Ooh.
Now, if any of you would like one of these shirts, I have 100 shirts from the Sierra Club, and we're willing to give you one if you promise to wear it in public. So just send me your email. But yeah, I have a couple of every size, so I could run out of different sizes, but
That's great. Okay, Martha, so thank you so very much. That was a terrific presentation. Please keep us posted
I will.
on what's happening, and we'll close out this part of the conversation. And I want to interject here because Barbara brought up the issue, so I'd like to follow up right now on and make a proposal that we again this year send a letter of support to the House and Senate for the bottle bill. So I need a second on that. Barbara seconds. Any further discussion on the proposal? No, hearing none, I'll go ahead and those in favor. Dave? Yes? Mr. Cola? Chuck? No? Yes. We lost Dave and Mr. Cola?
Well, yes, yes.
Yes, okay, Mr. Cola, Dave? Okay, I don't know what happened to Dave. Okay, so we have plenty, okay, just so for the record, so we have probably unanimous. So Martha, we will, soon as we have a House and Senate and a bill number,
Right.
and
Thank you so much.
committee assignment. I'd also like to recommend to follow up that we also send a letter urging the General Assembly Committee to also support the bill.
Oh, that would be helpful.
So can I get a second on that? Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Okay, the ayes have it, thank you. Okay, so those are two actions we'll take. I will move forward and draft the committee letter for the General Assembly.
Lee Johnson.
I
I have to transfer something to Kevin, or
Yeah.
am I a co-host or the only host?
You are the only host now. So
I think you have to transfer it back.
on the upper right hand corner of your box, there are three dots there. Could you click it and choose the change host function?
It's the one next to where it says mute on my little picture.
Yeah.
Rename myself, you can choose. View profile, mute my audio. It doesn't say anything about shifting. There's something called host tools at the bottom.
Could you click it?
This means that if I leave, your meeting will stop. Enable wait room, share screen, chat. Lock meeting. It just has enable waiting room. How did you send it to me, Nancy?
I didn't, it was Kevin.
Yeah, do you see the three dots on the upper right hand corner, Martha?
Upper right hand corner of my picture or of
Yeah,
the whole?
of your picture, yes.
Yeah, it has mute and it has three dots.
Okay, could you click it, please?
I clicked on it.
What do you see?
It says view profile, mute my audio, stop video, blur my background, adjust background, choose video filter, choose avatar, pin spotlight for everyone, hide self view and rename. That's all it says.
So there's no change function. Oh my.
There's no change function for me unless it's somewhere else. I can just mute myself and turn off my picture.
Okay.
Do you,
Sorry.
and go have dinner and come back later so that you won't.
Okay,
Is there
Sorry about that,
something else
Martha.
you need?
okay,
Is that okay?
yeah,
All right.
Thank you, Martha.
okay. Okay.
Thank you so much, Martha.
Okay, so we'll move on. So next up is committee reports. So Dave, you want to give us an update on things?
Yeah, thank you. I want to first state that our committee will meet again on the
Can you
second.
get a little closer to the microphone, Dave, please?
Yeah. Sorry, is that better? Can you hear
Much.
better? Can you hear me better now?
Much.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I have a quiet voice too, so sometimes it's not very good. We're going to have a committee meeting, the Greenhouse Gas Committee, the second week of January after the 13th. So I just want to let the committee members know, and that will be, it's a little ways off, but we'll have to wait till after the holiday to kind of have the meetings. But anyway, I hope all the committee members will be around for that. Also want to mention on December 3rd, Barbara, Bill, and I did a waste sort at the organics compost facility. I was only able to be there for half the day because I had to teach in the afternoon, but Barbara and Bill stayed the whole time. It was a very cold day, and they sorted in the morning and in the afternoon. And we haven't got the results yet. We're waiting for the results. But what we saw was interesting. University Park, which I was worried that we would see a lot more plastic because we stopped providing bio bags. There was almost no plastic in there. So that was really pretty encouraging. The second sort, which was by some contractor, and I don't know
Well,
exactly
not
who-
only almost no plastic, but lots and lots of food in bio bags.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's both of those.
yeah. And then in the afternoon, I wasn't there, but Barbara told me that there were lots of plastic bags in the second sort, which was a contractor, which I believe is doing it for part of the county program, and filled with a lot of plastic.
In fact, the majority of the food that we saw that was bagged in illegal plastic bags rather than in bio bags from this second jurisdiction.
Yeah. And maybe also Bill might want to weigh in on that because he was there for the entire time. And again, I really appreciate them hanging around the whole day because it was a really cold, windy day and not a very pleasant place to be, but they stuck in there. So I want to thank them for doing that. Let's see. I have some notes here, so I'm just trying to make sure I don't forget something.
While you're looking, let me just comment that I found it super heartening how wonderfully University Park did. And I felt way better than University Park did in our sort in the spring when they were getting bio bags. So it says if you have an engaged community in good education, you can get a lot of food being diverted to the composting facility and it not being in plastic bags. And conversely, wherever this other jurisdiction is, obviously bad education, bad follow through. So not much food being diverted to the composting facility and the majority of it in plastic bags that are not compostable. So it just showed the importance of education and community engagement.
Yeah.
Barbara, one thing with that stuff in the afternoon too, a lot of those plastic bags were contained within the large paper bags that are used for collecting the yard waste. So there's no way that the hauler could have done any, rejection of those items because they didn't, they couldn't see inside of those bags to note that that's what was
Right.
being done by the residents as far as their collection and disposal mechanism. It's lack of education on the part of the residents. The haulers could have done nothing to prevent that at all, at least from the way I saw it.
Yeah, and that's one thing that we did. There were hundreds of bags that were in there, and we were tearing all these bags apart so we could make sure we were trying to find what was in there. And a lot of them were just yard waste, but there was a lot that also had the bio bags or something else in them. And so it was quite a job to spend all that time. Again, it was cold out there. it was cold. So,
but very enlightening.
Yeah. I want to go next to what we started doing now. We've been following what's going on up in Laurel, and Laurel's getting ready to go from a volunteer composting program to a mandatory program. And we've talked to Michelle Blair, who is running that program, and has been doing a lot of research, I think looking at programs that are being run out in California and other places where they have a mandatory programs, and trying to understand how best to organize and manage and get a program off the ground. They're, I believe the mayor and the council have decided, and they passed legislation in the last year or so. Beginning in January this year, they're going to start their mandatory program in Laurel, and hope to have it up and running completely by July. They're going to start with maybe a council district at a time or something, but by July, the whole town is supposed to be then working to a mandatory program. And as a result of that, we had Michelle Blair on a recent phone call, Zoom call with our town. We have a sustainability committee, and she presented, and what we're thinking about right now is having University Park possibly go to a mandatory program as well. And that remains to be seen. We're going to have to probably have another council meeting. I've talked to most of the council members and the mayor, and the sustainability committee listened to Michelle Blair at length, and there was generally, I think, a pretty positive meeting. And Barbara, that's the same day we had the sorts. Barbara still came out and sat through another 2-hour meeting in the evening. It was inside, so it was warmer, but really appreciate Barbara being there. And maybe, Barbara, you might want to add anything you sort of felt, or what came out of that meeting for you.
I thought it was very positive.
Yeah. So we think that if we can't, we think that it might be really good if a couple jurisdictions, and we think maybe we have a couple other places in the county that have composting programs, not a lot, but some, including Hyattsville, Greenbelt, University Park. And if we could get some of those going, it might be also an incentive for the county to start thinking about going beyond the voluntary program they have right now. So that's kind of what we're starting to work on. I'm also going to have a meeting tomorrow with the mayor of Landover Hills. I was given his name by the chief of Eric Olson's office, because he works or he lives in Landover Hills, and said they were at least thinking about it. So I said I'd be happy to meet and tell him what I know about the University Park program, and see if they might be willing to think about going. And we have 27 jurisdictions here in the county, so maybe there are some other places where we could start kind of pushing composting a little bit. Let's see.
May I make another comment related to the Michelle Blair presentation?
Yeah.
The one thing that or one of the many things I took away from it is her wonderful approach of educating the citizens on the importance of this, of trying to meet them on their own terms, of individually talking with citizens to get buy-in. She has just a wonderful way of making it a communal effort rather than an adversarial effort. And I'm wondering actually if even the county might be willing to sit down with Michelle and go over some of their approaches, because unfortunately, to very many residents, they feel very adversarial to how the county presents very many of the county's programs. And Michelle has a really good way of getting residents on the side of doing things. And if the county could learn from that and do some more of that, I think it would really help the success of various county programs.
Yeah. Unless people have other questions, that's all my report. I do have some questions I'd like to ask Kevin maybe after he makes his report. But for right now, that's all I have in terms of
So
my
Dave, do you want to
report.
talk about Area C?
Well, yes, I mean, I've been talking to Kevin a little bit about trying to get a meeting together and and also have some additional people at that meeting. We were unable to, other than some of the commission members, we got the tour, but there were some additional people we would like to have had at the meeting, and we were told that we only had, we only could have the committee or the commission at that tour. So we would like to have we'd like to have a meeting. Maybe it could be also just a Zoom call or something, or a virtual meeting, but we'd like to talk and get a better understanding of exactly how Area C is being designed and built, and how we will be managed over the next 20 or 25 years. And right now, I don't think we have very much information about that. And so it would, I think Nancy is requesting more information so we can actually maybe ask the right questions if and when we do have that meeting. And the meeting which we were originally talking about trying to have in December sounds like it's going to be pushed back a while, but we definitely like to have that meeting. So Kevin, if you could help us get that meeting in place, that would be really excellent. And I think some of the commissioners who were at the first tour, I think could still gain a lot from the second meeting, because there'll probably be things that questions we didn't even ask because of our lack of experience in terms of landfills. There might be some other people there who may be able to ask better questions. So
Kevin, I saw the email that you sent about the open meetings issue, and I had talked to Dave about that earlier. And one thought I had was that if we had it as part of the Greenhouse Gas Committee, as a committee meeting, which presumably would just be a few members who might attend anyway, then we would not have to be subject to those issues. Is that correct?
Yeah, as long as the meeting falls within the SWAC, you know, I would
Purview.
purview, right? Yes. Then yeah, the meeting can push through.
Okay.
And I think it's just a matter of having the schedule finalized. We agree with presenting to you our updates as far as Area C construction is concerned. So yeah, I'll talk to Marlene about that arrangement where it will fall under the committee meeting.
Right. Okay. And then the other thing is, as soon as you can get back to me, so I can go ahead and do the FOIA request as soon as possible, because they're required to respond within 30 days. But the sooner I get it out, the sooner. And I'm not clear about certain things that I sent you in that email. So some clarification. I'm not sure whether I'm asking the state or the county, and whether there's a need for a separate ask for different parts of the system, like the gas collection system versus the as-built system, et cetera. So those clarifications would be really helpful.
Yeah, I've drafted some responses, but I just need to clarify some things to make
Okay.
sure they provide you the right information. But I hope to respond to you tomorrow, Nancy.
Okay, great. Terrific. Thank you so much, Kevin. Much appreciated.
Nancy, let me just interject. If you are doing a Maryland Public Information Act request, don't hold your breath at the 30 days. It's now over 75 days that I filed the MPIA to Department of Environment for the hauler contracts, which they hope to get to me in 10 days, definitely in 30 days. If not in 30 days, they'll let me know when. And of course, they haven't responded with anything.
Well, they're required to respond in 30
Right, but
days.
they're not.
I hear you. And we can file a complaint with the commission that oversees that with the state.
Great.
Which we should probably go ahead and do that.
Okay, can you get me information on how to do that? I'd love to.
I will.
Because it's just inappropriate that we are trying to help DOE and they don't even do their minimum requirement.
Okay, so you and I can follow up on that.
Terrific.
Okay.
appreciate that.
Thank you. Sure, thank you. Okay, Nyla, anything on outreach? And Barbara also, have you, if there's anything on outreach, but Nyla, go ahead.
Okay, yes. Just two things. Okay. It turns out that my account for the county part OIT isn't working, and I don't know. I thought I have an OEA account, but I don't have a county email to be accessing the upload folders and all that. So I guess I didn't have either access or I wasn't given an email. So I'm gonna have to call them to see how to work that out. Anyway, when it's sorted out, I'll update. But I do have an additional program I found that could be helpful for anyone who wants to join it. It's the Prince George's County Climate Stewards Academy.
Yeah.
It's a free grant funded opportunity. It is a few months in the spring, well, in the winter and spring, and then it culminates in a final project. It's free for all county residents. There's not an age requirement. And if you haven't heard about it, I'll send out the email because I've heard about it twice and I'm applying to it too. So it's a fun little educational opportunity. And for those who want to get interested in their community outreach on hand, and it's mostly online, but there's some in-person portions as well. So I'm excited. So I just thought I'd share that.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Well, thank you very much. And yeah, go ahead, please. Either send it to me and I'll send it to everybody, or just send it out yourself. It's fine. But yeah, it looks like a very cool program. So thanks for bringing that up. Barbara, any updates on the compost outreach process?
I'm hoping that DOE will get to us on how we can get involved with some outreach.
Do you have
mean,
a
I keep-
contact person or a way to initiate some kind of regular communication with them?
I mean, I keep asking Kevin and Marilyn when she shows up. I was hoping to ask Andrea tonight. It seems like we're not getting any, I have no way of reaching anyone. I don't know who does the messaging for DOE to try to reach out to them, and nobody will tell me.
So
The
Kevin,
only
what do you
way I can think of is going to Tom Dernoga and Eric Olson and asking them to get involved and help. But it seems stupid to have to go the back door when we talk every month with Kevin, and usually Marilyn's here.
Kevin, can you, or I'm not sure what we need to do to set up some kind of better communication process.
I know that we've reached out to our communications team for a meeting with your group, but we haven't heard from them, so I have to follow up again. But our suggestion is if you have messages that you would like included, you can just email it to me or to Marlon, and we will forward it to our communications team.
Okay,
And
but I think that what
I think it works that way. I mean, we're not going to send a message saying compost your Christmas tree. We're trying to get an overall
right.
outreach to the community. It's something that's going to require a mailer to everybody, like the DOE keeps sending out mailers and things. They don't have money, and you keep getting mailers in the mail from DOE on things. So they obviously have money for mailers. And we need to actually have a decent outreach to try to get citizens realizing why it is they want to compost, not how, but why.
So Kevin, I think it's a matter of the messaging, the overall messaging, that there needs to be some kind of process of regular dialogue between between whoever's doing the messaging and our team. So if you could help set up a meeting, maybe early in the new year, so we could get something really set up, that would be great.
okay, yeah.
Okay. Okay, Barbara. So we'll try to get
Thank
something
you.
set up and get this really moving.
Yeah, because I think we really have to get at the basis of the messaging and start at ground zero with educating the people, because it's turned into, and you guys probably also see it. I've seen it at a number of holiday get-togethers where even very nice, caring people at the end of the holiday party, you say, well, where do I put these compost things? Oh, we don't bother with that. It smells. Why should I do it?
Yeah.
People just don't care. And it's not that they're jerks. Well, slightly they're jerks, but they haven't been educated.
Right. So it's a more systemic. I think we need a little bit more. The messaging needs to be a more completely infused process with what's going on. So
Right.
we will endeavor to begin a better intensive dialogue with the communications people in the new year.
Yeah.
So-
And actually, let me just say, with several of these people, I have asked a little bit trying to probe, and they say, oh, yeah, they got lots of mailings from the county and they know exactly how to do the composting, but they don't see why they should bother. And it smells, so why should they? So
Yeah,
they
well-
got the messaging that the county sent, they understood what the county said, and they said, not for me. They did not get any messaging on why they should care because nothing was sent out.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Thanks, everybody. Okay, Kevin, do you want to give us your report?
Okay. I'm just going to provide you an overview. Some of the key updates from our side. So our snow duty. So the division is preparing for the snow duty as in partnership with the Department of Public Works. We have to make sure that the landfill is open over inclement weather. That's our priority. So in the next couple of months, we'll be focused on this concern. As mentioned by Dave, the waste sort was conducted on December 3, and we are waiting for the report from MES, and then we will transmit it to you once we receive the report. Area C construction is ongoing. We are on track to complete the Area C Cell 1 construction. The RFP, it's under review by our proposal analysis group. There are 10 bidders, and so the target is to make an award before end of the year. Campus outreach, Barbara has mentioned about the request for a meeting with our comms team, and I will follow up on that. Collection contract, so hopefully Director Crooms will be able to attend the meeting in January to discuss the haulers contract. DOE events, we have the household hazardous waste event on December 7, and we had about 430 residents participating in that event. And the next collection event will be in March 15, 2024. Also, we're preparing for the annual Waste Diversion Award, which is targeted to happen in January 2025, and I will keep you an update about that. That's all from my end, Nancy.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Nancy,
Yeah.
Since Kevin indicated they intend to make the awards by the end of the year, is there any opportunity for us to be advised when that award is made, or if there's multiple awards, what contracts have been led on that?
I can share with you. We have some like guidelines. You can even nominate an organization or an entity for the award. But as soon as I get the information, I will share it with you.
The contracts you were talking about being awarded by the end of the year.
Oh, I'm sorry. What's your question again, Chuck?
But you've got the RPF that's for the gas and proposals, and you're supposed to have something done by the end of the year.
Yes, that's the target. Yes.
Can we have an update before the next meeting? If it's by the end of the year, if the decision's made by December 31st, rather than waiting till our next meeting, can we have an update when it happens?
Yeah, sure. I will provide an update once we get the word from the technical group that's reviewing the proposals.
Thank you.
Yeah, great question. Thanks, Chuck. That would be nice to have and to know where things stand with that. This is for the pipeline issue, the beneficial gas use. Is that correct, Kevin?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, great. Is there a budget in process at the moment?
What do you mean, Nancy?
For preparation for next year, for coming up? I'm not sure when that process starts for DOE.
I'm not involved in the budgeting process, but I guess
Okay.
there is, yes. Mhm.
Okay, maybe we could find out from Marilyn.
Nancy, I think that's later in the spring.
Yeah, I just think it's always earlier to me than I'm aware of, so I thought I'd ask actually at about the halfway point.
It's in the spring that they present it to the council, but the DOE has to prepare their budget. I suspect it takes months in advance.
Exactly. That's
And yeah, and we do it by fiscal year. So yeah,
right. And the fiscal year is in July 1st.
right,
Right, but it starts much earlier.
correct, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, any other questions for Kevin?
I have some.
Okay, yep, Dave, go ahead.
Okay. Kevin, I was hoping that at least Marilyn would have been on this call tonight. So I may ask you a question. Maybe you can pass it along to her or to Andrea. I'm just wondering well, maybe first I want to say, I've been in the county for over 40 years. I really love this place. And I was on our town council 4 times. I worked up in Baltimore for over 20 years. So I know a little bit about local government and how agencies sometimes run or maybe don't function as well as they should. And quite frankly, I've been on the commission now for over 3 years. And I'm frustrated because I feel like if we are supposed to do what we can do, and I was looking at what the powers of the commission are, and they're to review and offer recommendations, including the budget, investigate, evaluate, recommend, make recommendations on storage, collection, transportation, processing, disposal, and resource recovery. That includes all the things we're talking about in terms of composting and dealing with solid waste, processing, recycling, and of course the landfill. And then reviewing and commenting, submitting an annual report. I don't think it's really hard to kind of do something like that when you don't have very much information. And we are always struggling to get information from the Department of the Environment, and it's really a struggle to get that. So I want to ask you, and maybe you can pass that along to your the people on top of the Department of Environment. What is the role of the commission? Because I think what we were told in the powers of a commission, it seems like it's very hard for us to do that. How do we do our job? So those would be my 2 questions. What really is the role? What do you really see the role of the commission being other than having these monthly meetings? And how do we do our job?
So I think you've raised that question in your previous meeting, Dave. And I think your role is clear in your bylaws, which is to assist the county executive office and the council in terms of providing recommendations on how to improve the county's recycling, composting, and residual management programs. So basically providing recommendations to the county, right? Because you have the experience, you have the expertise, you have the networks with communities on how to better serve, right, the residents as far as waste management is concerned. As far as information is concerned, like in my case, my role is I'm just a messenger, right? I don't do the decisions here. I relay whatever your requests are as far as information is concerned. So I try to provide the information that you need as much as possible. But, the county has some internal processes in terms of, sharing the information. some information cannot be shared right away. Some can be shared right away. So there's really a process, and I'm also constrained to, there are some limitations as far as my task is concerned with your group. But I try to help you with your concerns. But I think I based on my experience with your group, I mean, you're very kind of aggressive in terms of trying to help the county, and requesting for information so that you will be able to come up with recommendations. So yeah, basically assisting the county with improving the county's recycling and composting programs. That's how I see your role.
Well, I just want to state again, if we're to make recommendations, it has to be recommendations based on information. Without the information, we're kind of like, what can we recommend if we really don't know what's going on? And maybe I'm just the only person here, but I don't think so. I think the other commissioners feel the same way, that it's really difficult to get information from your office. And I'm not blaming you or anything, but if we're going to have an actual role, and if I'm going to stay on a commission for a while, and other people are, we want to be able to do an effective job. And I don't think we can do an effective job without sort of a partnership between the commission and the Department of Environment. And I don't think that right now we have it's not really a two-way street. I'm sorry, but that's after 3 years, that I sat in these meetings for 3 years, and that's my experience.
Nancy, I want to join with David. I've felt the same frustration, and my frustration goes back even more than 3 years. It is very frustrating when we're expected to make recommendations, but you try to get data or information that you need to come up with sound recommendations, and there's either foot dragging or no response at all. The perfect example is the contract situation, where you've been trying now for months to get those contracts, and for whatever reason, even through a freedom of information request, and they still haven't been forthcoming. It's almost like there are elements of the county government that don't want to share information with us for whatever reason. I don't know if they think we're too aggressive, or if we might learn something that they don't want us to know. But I think that's why, and I will say, as someone was involved with the previous task force that ultimately ended up recommending the establishment of this body, that was exactly why it was established, to have public input and public involvement and citizen involvement. And if we're not going to be part of the government, and that's the way I think it's looked at by many, that we're not really part of the government, yet our hands are tied by the department. So either we are or we aren't. That's my frustration.
So regarding that hauler's contract, Marlon raised that concern with Andrea, and so she agreed to attend your meeting today, but something came up, something important came up. That's why she wasn't able to attend. But in January, she will be doing the presentation about the hauler's contract, and I'll assist in following up that request. I'll tomorrow with our legislative liaison officer regarding the status of your request. But please note that it's really beyond my concern. It's beyond my how do I say it? It's beyond my
Hey, grade.
my purview to in terms of the time frame for the release of the information. So I'm also, as I said, I'm also constrained. So I have this limited space to move around as far as your request is concerned.
So Dave and Chuck.
I had my hand up too, Nancy.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Barbara.
Yeah, so let me third I can't second because Chuck already seconded, so I'll third it, Dave's frustration. And that just the same way that I think so many citizens feel that there's an adversarial relationship between them and DOE, I think many in the SWAC feel it too. And that we're just being put off. You know, it's been over a year since Andrea has been at a meeting. She had promised us that she would attempt to come to every second meeting. It's now 2 months in a row that she's was going to come, and something more important came up. And yeah, every time something can be. It's just when for a year you're supposed to come every second month and it never happens, you kind of get a feeling how important it is. And things we ask, they just don't happen. It's wonderful when, and we are apologize to you, Kevin, because we understand that you are the messenger and we're not trying to make the complaint to you because you're not the decision maker. But it's too bad that Marilyn isn't here. It's too bad that when she comes, very often her microphone doesn't work, so we can't communicate. I wish DOE could buy her a computer that actually has a microphone that works, that when she comes, we could communicate. Because if Andrea doesn't come, Marilyn's the only one we can talk to, who is a decision maker. We feel like we're being swept under the rug. And, you know, I think given the expertise of many people on this committee, we would, for instance, with the messaging, be very good at getting out messaging that is a lot more convincing to the county residents than DOE's. And not that we send some little thing to DOE about Christmas trees that they can send out, but that we actually figure out how to do a messaging program that is going to get the county residents to want to participate in the same way that Marilyn Blair is getting the Laurel residents to want to participate. And would really like to help. We care about the county, we care about the environment, would really like to help things. And it's just such a frustrating waste of time to, at least from our point of view, to be continually fighting with DOE to trying to, you know, it's now 7 months that we've been asking for the hauler contracts. We were told you had to do the the Maryland Public Information Act request, doesn't come, don't follow through. It's every step, it's kicked in the teeth. And would really like to help. But
we're just want a point of order that it's almost 7:30. So not everyone has spoken their thoughts. My sense is that if there's a strong feeling about this, then we should take some kind of action. And to me, that action would be to present our concerns to the powers that be, and because, as we said, Kevin is really the messenger. He's not the person with the authority. And if we want those people to hear or be concerned about what we have to say, I think we have to share our thoughts with those people. So
I suggest we wait and see if Andrea really does come to the January meeting and to try to talk it out with her in person, just because conversation often works better than us writing a white paper on our frustrations. Let's see if we can't talk something out with her or get some feeling, or maybe she'll just say buzz off. You know,
well, the other thing, Barbara,
see.
would be to have a separate, like we've had, is to have a meeting with her.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. The time when you and I had the lunch with her, I found that way more productive.
This is my take on this. We shouldn't be venting our frustration to the director. Okay, if we have anything to say, if we have any concern, we should be communicating with the office of the county executive. That is my take. Thank you.
It seems like that is, I'm worried that Andrea and Marilyn are going to be very mad at us if we vent to the non-existing county executive of our frustrations.
They're not going to be mad at us, because if you read the bylaw, we should be communicating directly to the county executive office, not to the director. Read the
But I
Bible.
thought we had it explained to us that the DOE was the representative of the county
It-
executive
it-
office.
No.
Actually, not really, Barbara. The DOE is supposed to help facilitate.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're actually under the aegis, as Jonathan pointed out, is the county executive and the council. That's who we really are connected to.
Yes.
Right, but if we go and vent our frustrations on how DOE is, in our view, kicking sand in our face to these other individuals, entities, it just doesn't look good. It's airing dirty linen that would be really nice to get resolved in-house.
Well,
And
keep in
really
mind that when
frustrating, but it's
Andrea,
not.
who's speaking? Is somebody speaking?
No.
Okay. So Barbara, I think either we need, if, when Andrea comes, that's a public meeting. Technically, this is put up on the web. Anybody can watch that meeting. So whatever concerns we have will be aired publicly in a public meeting.
Sure.
Um,
I'm not going to say anything that I wouldn't want publicly.
But I also think then there has to be something said in such a way that there's some level of accountability, that things are going to happen. Because if we complaining is ineffective, just complaining.
We see.
I think there just has to be a thought about, how that's going to craft an approach to working with her where we feel like we're getting some level of satisfaction. Because otherwise it's a continuous process. I mean, I've heard these complaints, for quite a long time, and I feel like we're still in the, this commission members still feel the same way, and nothing's really changed significantly. I mean, we commission members are working, and I really appreciate that, but the concerns are still there. So, either, there's a meeting with Andrea, there has to be a commitment to some kind of level of change with some hard sort of follow throughs that have to happen so that there's a level of accountability. It has to be a level of accountability that's demonstrated to the commission.
So are you suggesting that we ask Andrea if she'd like to also have a meeting with you and me, maybe even before the SWAC meeting?
Well, we could do a meeting with you and I, but then I think we have to think through what we're asking, and if we're going to have, whether we have a meeting separately and with her in January, we have to think through, some of the commission members have to contribute and think through what is it we want from her specifically. For example,
Dave gave a good
we have
list
to
of
say
questions.
we want the contracts, and we're entitled to have those contracts. We've made the appropriate requests and we still haven't received them.
But that's just such a minor example almost.
Well, there's many I mean, I think we have to give examples and ask for accountability.
Yeah.
If we don't make it something specific and real in a certain way, it'll just be a lot of saying, this is again, possibly the process of complaining without any possibility of results.
Yeah, although when I've talked to the county council people, and I think Dave, correct me, has had exactly the same experience, that they say they feel just as stonewalled.
Right. So, but you're
By
also,
Andrea.
but Jonathan's suggesting to try to get around that stone wall is to go to the other offices that we're actually accountable to. So if you want to proceed with typically a process, it's like go to the person just above you. That would be Andrea. And then if that doesn't work, you go to the next level. The people that we're actually accountable to, we're not really technically accountable to DOE. They're supposed to be a support function for us. But we should be partners in that process. And I think that's what it's not feeling like, a partnership.
Or maybe we could ask that at the next SWAC meeting, or maybe the one after where Andrea isn't, that Kevin try to arrange whoever in the county executive's office we would communicate or liaison with.
They don't know. They don't even have an executive.
Bill?
Nothing. I was just going to say we're supposed to have been stopping at 7:30, and
Yeah.
I've got another meeting, you know.
Okay, folks, so let me recommend at this point, Andrea is coming. I will, at the very least, send something out to everyone to say, if you have specific thoughts and concerns, send them to me. So I have a sense of what our agenda, of crafting some kind of an agenda for that meeting. I will send something back to you all. Barbara, you and I can talk offline.
Great.
About, some other possibilities. Does that sound reasonable to everybody? Okay. All right,
Fantastic to
everybody.
me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for all your input, and thank you for all your work, and have a safe and happy holiday.
The same.
Holidays.
Okay.
Happy holiday to everyone. And
Happy
welcome back,
holiday.
Nancy.
All right, Kevin. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'll wait
Bye
for
now.
my, thank you. Hey,
I still
Martha.
haven't figured out, I still haven't figured out how to, send
Martha,
it.
can you hear me, Martha?
I can hear you. Can you hear
Yeah.
me?
Yes, yes. So sorry about,
I don't
sorry
know
about
how
that.
to, I thought she'd make me a co-host,
Yeah.
and then there wouldn't have been an issue, but there's nothing here that says, by the
mhm.
way, I did have my dinner while you all were talking.
Okay. Anyway, because I transferred the hosting from me to you, but I could not find that function to transfer back the hosting to me. So it's a technical issue. But anyway, do you see the record function there? Because
Record, yeah. Let's see. I did see it here. Hold on. More.
you click
Stop record.
yes, please. Yes.
Stop recording.
Mhm.
You sure?